He discovered electromagnetism. He invented the electric motor. He transformed the world with technology. But Michael Faraday refused fame, refused money, and refused to take credit. His secret? A faith in God so deep it made him humble instead of proud. He was offered a knighthood. He turned it down. He was offered a mansion. He said no. He could have been rich. He chose poverty. Michael Faraday was one of the greatest experimental scientists in history. He discovered electromagnetism. He invented the electric motor. He transformed civilization. Yet he lived humbly, refused titles, and gave away his discoveries freely. His secret? He believed serving God mattered more than seeking worldly recognition. This is the Faraday story that changes everything. Michael Faraday was born September 22nd in 1791 in London. His family was poor. His father was a blacksmith, and there was no money for formal education. At age 14, Faraday was apprenticed to a bookbinder. While binding books, he read them. Fascinated by chemistry and science, the young Faraday taught himself through every book that passed his hands. At 20, Faraday attended a lecture by the famous chemist Humphrey Davy. He was electrified. He wrote to Davy asking for a position as an assistant. Davy hired him. For 9 years, Faraday was Davy's laboratory assistant, mixing chemicals, setting up experiments, and learning by doing. But Faraday had something Davy lacked: genuine humility and a deep Christian faith. Faraday belonged to the Sandemanian Church, a strict Protestant sect emphasizing biblical literalism and personal morality. His faith wasn't casual. It was central to who he was. For Faraday, science was a form of worship. Discovering God's laws of nature was his way of honoring the Creator. He once wrote, "The work I do is a kind of prayer." Faraday believed that understanding electromagnetism, magnetism, and chemistry was understanding the mind of God. Every discovery only deepened his awe of the Creator. He refused to do anything unethical in science. He wouldn't falsify data. He wouldn't take credit that belonged to others. He wouldn't pursue knowledge for personal gain. Faraday saw himself as a servant, first of God, then of science. He lived simply, gave generously, attended church faithfully, and maintained strict personal integrity even when it cost him professionally. His faith made him humble. His humility made him a better scientist. In 1821, Faraday made his first great discovery: electromagnetic rotation, the principle behind the electric motor. But instead of patenting it and becoming wealthy, he published it freely. The knowledge, he believed, belonged to humanity and ultimately to God. His greatest discovery came in 1831, electromagnetic induction. Faraday discovered that a changing magnetic field could induce an electric current in a conductor. This wasn't just a lab curiosity. This principle made electric generators possible. It made transformers possible. It made all modern electrical power distribution possible. Faraday's discovery became the foundation of our entire electrical civilization. Yet, he never sought payment. He never patented his findings. He lived modestly, worked at the Royal Institution for a modest salary, and refused prestigious offers from wealthier institutions. When offered a knighthood, the highest honor, Faraday refused. He believed accepting would make him proud. He chose to remain Mr. Faraday, not Sir Michael. Faraday's refusal to pursue wealth had consequences. He never accumulated savings. He lived on his salary from the Royal Institution. When he aged and could no longer work, he had no fortune to sustain him. He relied on a small pension granted by the government, a pittance compared to what he could have earned. He also refused to use his discoveries for military weapons. When asked to develop explosives, he declined, unwilling to use science for destruction. His colleagues thought he was foolish. They accumulated wealth and status. Faraday accumulated knowledge and integrity. But he never regretted his choices. He wrote, "I have never been mortified at having to come down, For I have always reckoned that the greatest wealth is to have a thankful and a happy mind. His faith sustained him through hardship. His humility kept him focused on what mattered, understanding God's creation. Faraday's discoveries didn't just advance science, they transformed civilization. Electromagnetic induction made electric power generation possible. It made the electrical grid possible. It made modern civilization possible. Every time you flip a switch, you're using a principle Faraday discovered. Every generator, every transformer, every electric motor traces back to his work. Yet Faraday never sought credit. He never demanded payment. He gave his discoveries away. This is remarkable. Most scientists guard their discoveries, patent them, and profit from them. Faraday believed knowledge was a gift meant to serve humanity. His faith taught him that. God gave us minds to understand creation, and that understanding isn't meant for personal profit. It's meant for service. Faraday's legacy shows that true greatness comes not from accumulating wealth or fame, but from devotion to truth and service to others. What made Faraday remarkable wasn't just his genius, it was his character. He was honest when dishonesty would have enriched him. He was humble when pride would have served him. He was generous when stinginess would have helped him. His colleagues noticed. James Clerk Maxwell, another brilliant scientist, said, "The character of Faraday is shown most strikingly in his devotion to science and his refusal to seek money or fame." Faraday married Sarah Barnard, also from his church, and they lived simply together for 46 years. He had no children. His family was the scientific community and his church community. He continued experimenting even as he aged. At 75, he was still investigating, still curious, still serving God by understanding creation. Faraday died on August 25, 1867. His funeral was simple. He refused grand honors. He lived and died as he believed, in humble service to God and truth. Michael Faraday looked at nature and saw God's handiwork. He dedicated his life to understanding it, not for fame or wealth, but for the pure joy of discovery and service. His faith taught him that greatness isn't measured by titles or money. It's measured by integrity and service. Faraday shaped our world more than almost any other scientist. Yet he lived humbly, refused honors, and directed all credit to God. He proves something radical. The greatest scientist can also be the most humble. Genius can coexist with humility. Success can mean serving rather than conquering. What do you think? Does Faraday's example inspire you? Comment below. Subscribe for more stories about scientists whose faith defined their character. Thanks for watching.